You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.
The options market can be a confusing place. Sorting through the daily avalanche of data, alerts, updates, articles, and analysis to find the most important information is an overwhelming prospect. But now you have help. Welcome to the Options News Rundown, the only program that breaks through the noise to bring you the most important news and information from the world of options. Every day we bring you the top 5 option stories curated by the options experts at theoptionsinsider.com, the premier source for free options information. The Options News Rundown is brought to you by Market Taker Mentoring, the leader in option trader education. Get trader education, daily trade ideas, and more with a free 1-week trial of Market Taker Mentoring's live Advantage group coaching class by visiting markettaker.com/insider. And now it's time to break through the noise. It's time for your Options News Rundown.
Good morning. Today is April 11th, 2018. This is your Options News Rundown. I'm Dan Passarelli. Our first story today is from investing.com, and we're kicking it off with the top 5 things to know in the market on Wednesday. First thing to know is Trump weighs a military strike on Syria. U.S. President Donald Trump and Western allies are discussing possible military action to punish Syria's President Bashar Assad for a suspected poison gas attack over the weekend on a rebel-held town that long had held out against government forces. Trump on Tuesday canceled a planned trip to Latin America later this week to focus instead on responding to the Syria incident, the White House said. On Monday, he had warned of a quick, forceful response once responsibility for the Syria attack was established. Second thing to know is U.S. stock futures point to a lower open. U.S. stock futures pointed to a lower open as the possibility of an American military strike on Syria gave investors pause. The blue chip Dow futures fell around 80 points, or about 0.3%. The S&P 500 futures dipped 12 points, or nearly 0.5%, while the tech-heavy NASDAQ 100 futures declined 27 points, or roughly 0.4%. Third thing to know today is all eyes are on U.S. inflation data. The Commerce Department will publish March inflation figures at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, with traders watching to see if the data will run hotter than expected, just as producer prices did the day before. Market analysts expect consumer prices to rise 2.4% on a year-over-year basis. That's up 2.2% in February. The fourth thing to note today is the Fed releases FOMC meeting minutes. Later in the afternoon, the Federal Reserve will release minutes of its most recent policy meeting at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, which may provide further hints on the pace of future rate hikes this year. The U.S. Central Bank raised interest rates as widely expected following its meeting on March 21st and stuck to its projection for 2 more rate hikes this year. And the fifth thing to know today is EIA Weekly Supply Report is in focus. Oil traders looked ahead to fresh weekly data on U.S. commercial crude inventories to gauge the strength of demand in the world's largest oil consumer and how fast output levels will continue to rise. The U.S. Energy Information Administration will release its official weekly oil supplies report at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. That's amid expectations for a decline of around 0.2 million barrels. Our second story today is from CNBC.com. Treasuries rise as investors head for safety in the wake of a Trump missile attack. U.S. government debt prices rose Wednesday after President Donald Trump threatened a missile strike in Syria, telling Russia to get ready. Treasury yields fell immediately after the president tweeted his threat, as investors fled for perceived safe haven assets like bonds and gold. Russia vows to shoot down any and all missiles fired at Syria. Get ready, Russia, because they will be coming. Nice and new and smart, Trump tweeted. We shouldn't be partners with a gas-killing animal who kills his people and enjoys it. The yield on the benchmark 10-year Treasury note was lower at around 2.772% at 8:13 Eastern Time, while the yield on the 30-year Treasury bond was lower at 2.995%. Bond yields, of course, move inversely to prices. Our third story today is from CMEgroup.com. High consumer confidence. Cause for concern or celebration? Consumer confidence, as measured by independent global research association, the Conference Board, has recently achieved lofty levels only seen twice before in the 50-year history of the index. Consumers are the happiest they've been since the year 2000. But should equity investors be celebrating or running for the hills? Historically, happy consumers are not good news for equity investors. After consumer confidence peaked in 1968, the equity market suffered a 70% inflation-adjusted loss over the course of the next decade and a half. Following the consumer confidence peak in 2000, the equity market fell 50% over the course of the next 2 years. It recovered before falling 60% and finally hitting bottom in 2009. The flip side is that despairing consumers are often good news for equity investors. The worst periods for consumer confidence, the early 1980s, the early 1990s, and the immediate aftermath of the 2008 financial crisis, all produced spectacular returns for equity market investors in the years afterwards. And our final story of the day comes by way of NASDAQ.com. CME revokes approved status for Russal's aluminum. CME Group has revoked approved status for Russal's metal for delivery against CME aluminum futures contracts after the U.S. Treasury Department imposed sanctions on the Russian company. The suspension is effective from April 10th, a notice on the CME website showed. The U.S. Treasury last Friday slapped sanctions on 7 Russian oligarchs and 12 firms they own or control, saying they were profiting from a Russian state engaged in malign activities around the world. CME warehouses in the United States hold nearly 54,000 tons of aluminum, and most of that is in Owensboro. The London Metal Exchange also on Tuesday said Russal's aluminum would be suspended from a list of approved brands from April 17th after some members raised concerns about settling contracts with sanction-hit companies. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is news you can use for today, April 11th, 2018. Your Options News Rundown. I'm Dan Pasquarelli, Trade Smart, and have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the Options News Rundown. To learn more about these stories or any other developments from the world of options, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com, the premier source for free options information. The Options News Rundown is brought to you by Market Taker Mentoring, the leader in option trader education. Get trader education, daily trade ideas, and more with a free 1-week trial of Market Taker Mentoring's live Advantage group coaching class by visiting markettaker.com/insider.
The preceding program was a production of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.